Ladies and gentlemen, for the distinguished session, we have our panelists on stage, and we will begin with Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Surin Pitsuwan, the former Secretary General of ASEAN. Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri has been on the front lines of negotiating peace for many years, has served as a mediator, conflict negotiator, and has a wide array of experiences. He is firmly rooted and grounded in Islamic principles, and through his presentations you will be listening to a wealth of knowledge from an individual that is both well-traveled and well-experienced in the area of global peace. So, on that note, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in inviting Tan Sri, Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, to now deliberate on the topic.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Your Royal Highness Sultan Nazrin Shah of Perak Darun Ridwan, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a privilege to be invited to this conference for the second time. A friend of mine in Kuala Lumpur gave me a title. He said, in other places, people have diplomats in residence, poets on campus. You are a scholar on call. Meaning every time Your Royal Highness gave me an order, an invitation, I would have to come. Alhamdulillah. The topic that Your Royal Highness has already explored for all of us in width and in depth, world peace, is definitely the issue and the challenge that as humanity we have been facing from the very, very beginning. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would like to create Adam alayhi salam, he was opposed by the shaitan. So the creation of man itself was out of contention. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. Allah said, we would like to create our vicegerent on earth. He was opposed. He was asked, why man? Man would create confusion, man would create troubles and conflicts and violence and war. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created man and woman. And I think the unfolding of history is nothing but the unfolding of the truth of the creation, of the choice and tension between God's will and human freedom. And I think all of us, all earth now, Your Royal Highness, 7.3 billion of us, are now facing a choice. Because the world is getting smaller, the world is more integrated, globalization has made the world more connected, as Your Royal Highness has said. But I would submit to you all that a connected world, an integrated world, is a very fragile world. it's a very, very dangerous world. Because problem anywhere, violence in any place, death in any corner of the earth diminishes us all. Because we are part of that humanity. So I think it is up to us, particularly if it is in the context of the Islamic thought and Islamic civilization, which is the theme of this conference. We have to ask what would be the contribution that 1/5 of humanity could make to create peace on earth, to bring about reconciliation, to bring about harmony and cooperation, because such is the mission of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we as inheritors of that mission, rahmatan lil alameen, symbol of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to all of us. We have to ask many questions, as His Royal Highness has already asked. And let me ask this first question of all of you scholars. Thinkers in the Muslim world somehow could not practice their thinking in their own countries. A lot of them have to migrate out and to do it somewhere else where the space is more open for them. What's wrong with the Islamic space and Muslim space? Great thinking about the way out for humanity, for Muslims from now onward, may be coming from Oxford, maybe coming from Cambridge, maybe coming from Chicago, maybe coming from Harvard. We have to think about the condition and the system and the contexts that somehow we have arrived at or created or failed to create to nurture greater creativity among all of us so that we can respond to the call of this great civilization. First question, why is it great scholars have to migrate out of their own context to do their thinking somewhere else? The second question is, if we follow Al-Farabi, the great philosopher of Islam, born in Damascus, but traveling all over the Muslim world at that time, and looking for knowledge, seeking knowledge, all the way back to the Greeks, down to his present day of revealed religion of Islam. Al-Farabi took the advice of Socrates, the Greek philosopher, very, very seriously. And that advice is to be, again, what the Sultan had just mentioned to us, a sense of humility. There has to be a philosophical humility among us, particularly the ulama, particularly the elites of the Muslim world. That sense of humility, or what Socrates called philosophical humility, or intellectual humility, is nothing but to say that I know very little. I know that I know nothing even. And coming from the Pondok, sitting at the feet of my grandfather in the evening before he closed those Kitab Kuning, he always uttered that phrase, Wallahu A'lam. God knows best. What I was teaching you may be just 50% right and 50% wrong. What I have taught you may be even 70% wrong, 25% right, but Allah knows best. That is philosophical humility in the tradition of the Islamic education. But you look around the world, we look around the world now, people insist that they know all, they know the truth. They are the monopolizer of the truth and nobody else knows the truth. Therefore we turn around and we pass hukum. You are wrong, I am right. You are bid'ah, I am the truth. You are leading the ummah in the wrong way, I am doing it in the right way, everybody else is wrong. That is not a philosophical humility. That is not the ethos of Wallahu A'lam. So we must have philosophical humility among us so that we can give space to each other to think creatively, to philosophize even, and to come up with new ways to catch up with the changes, with the transformation, with the creativity, with the creation, with digital era. All these things are happening by passing, many of us, because a lot of us tend to believe that we know the best and we don't want to hear from anybody else. And I think the 3-4 ayat in the beginning set the tone very well, confirmed by the royal keynote and the chief minister, that Perak Darul Ridwan is a microcosm of the diversity of humanity. Inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu, to know each other. I would like to bring up one more issue as my last issue before you today, and that is Professor Hussein Nasr, an Iranian, could not write in Iran. He went to MIT, he went to Harvard, he is now teaching at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. One of the greatest Muslim thinkers alive. But he couldn't do it in Iran. He belongs to this comparative religious studies, and it is called Transcendental Unity of Religions. He said of the greatest religions, revealed religions, they are talking about the same thing. Talking about oneness of humanity, talking about compassion, talking about the importance of submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of God. Talking about humanity, talking about sharing, talking about honesty. At one level, all these great religions, transcendental unity of religions, they're talking about the same thing. But the world today is full of diversity. And followers of religion somehow got caught in the symbolisms of their religions. Because we use human language. Because we use symbolism to communicate. And here is a story from a Sufi, spiritual practitioner of Islam, who gave an example to illustrate that many of us got caught in the symbolism of our religion. He said, if you use the index finger pointing at the moon, a dog would look at your finger, not knowing that that index finger is pointing at something beyond, higher, and far away, the moon. He said, an intelligent, rational human being would not look at the index finger, but would look at the moon, where symbolism is pointing to. Now, the problems that we are facing today is that you are right, I am wrong. You describe Jannah differently from me. I describe hell better than you. Oh, symbolizing the ideas of right and wrong, the idea of good and evil, the idea of what should be the righteous path forward and what kind of reward and redemption that you will get at the end of your journey on earth. A lot of these symbolisms led us to confusion and led us to fight each other. This series of conferences, this conference on Islamic thought and civilization, is a reflection of the realization of the leaders and the leadership of this great state of Perak. And may I salute Your Royal Highness, being a Harvard man and an Oxford man like myself. May I salute you, Your Royal Highness, that you are a living aspirant. I haven't finished yet. Living aspirant of what? Living aspirant of what Abu Hamid al-Farabi called, Muhammad al-Farabi called al-Malik al-Falsafat, meaning philosopher king. And in the Quran, Allah invites us, orders us, admonishes us to listen to follow, and to respect. أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. Those of you sitting on the front line are ulil amri minkum. People who have the affairs of your people in your hands, including Tan Sri Ismail Ghazali right here. Ghazali Ismail. أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. You are the people of responsibility. And the need of the world for your wisdom, the call of the United Nations for your wisdom and guidance and leadership, Your Royal Highness, and your patronage of this very conference certainly reflects your aspiration as being that philosopher king for your people. And I think we are most fortunate to come every year to deliberate on different subjects under this theme. The theme of Islamic thought and Islamic civilization. How are we going to contribute to the rest of humanity? And this will have to begin with a leadership, with a vision, and this will have to begin with a sense of humility. And that is, here we know less than many others from around the world. We want to listen. And I think this is the beginning of knowledge. This is the beginning of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance into the future, for whatever we want to do. And the most challenging most challenging mission for all of us now is to bring peace, to bring harmony, to bring understanding to the global community, fitting to the name of Islam and the name of Amana and the name of inclusivity. Because 3.4 billion people on earth now, 2 billion more in less than 30 years. We need wisdom, we need guidance, and we need inspiration. And thank you, the Sultan, thank you, Perak Darul Ridwan, for giving us this forum to deliberate on this greatest mission for all mankind here in your capital, Ipoh. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Sri Dr. Surin Pitsuwan. And next, we shall invite the founding director of the Medina Institute from the USA. Now, Sheikh Muhammad Yahya Al-Ninawi needs no introduction. He brings a balance of religion and science, being someone who is well trained in the field of microbiology. So please help me welcome Sheikh Muhammad Yahya Al-Ninawi, founding director of the Medina Institute of the USA.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. His Royal Highness, the Sultan of Perak Darul Rizwan, Sultan Nazreen Muizzuddin Shah ibn al-Marhum, Sultan Azlan Muhibbuddin Shah al-Maghfur lah, the Raja Muda Perak, Raja Jafar bin al-Marhum, Raja Muda Musa, and Datu Seri, the Raja Dr. Zamri Abdul Qadir, the Mentri Besar of the great state of Perak. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. I think both speeches talked about a lot, so I'm going to go straight through. But needless to mention that in a friendly banter with His Royal Highness before we entered the hall, he told me that Perak is your home. So I'm taking that literally. It's very nice to be back in Perak. And Allah Ta'ala keep it always Darul Ridwan forever and ever to come. And keep the beautiful people and the good people in Malaysia always as good as they are, and bless them with more and more. To go straight to the point, Islam spoke about peace and non-violence. But Islam did make a distinction between both and laid down foundation and practical examples for both peace and non-violence. For peace, Islam offered us love. What that means is Islam looks at peace as an environment that's conducive to love. And if it's not, then it's neither. And with that, Al-Quran Al-Kareem, for example, calls Allah Ta'ala, the name of Allah Ta'ala, the Lord of all, is As-Salam. Also, His name is Al-Wadud, the most loving. And As-Salam, obviously, coming from peace. But not only that, Al-Quran Al-Kareem calls Jannah, paradise, Darus Salam. Wallahu yad'u ila Daris Salam. The abode of peace. But the abode of peace is only an abode of love in reality. The love of God manifested in the best ways, and the love of the creation manifested in the best ways. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ, in a hadith that Imam Muslim narrated, he tells us by this words, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ, by Him who holds myself, you will never enter Jannah until you believe. And you will never believe until you love. ألا أدلكم, should I tell you about something? If you do, you will actually start loving each other. أفشوا السلام بينكم. Spread salam. Notice how then Islam is connected, peace and love, because they are connected and they may be actually used synonymously. When it comes to the scripture, unlike other faith systems, Christianity and other faith systems, Islam examines the lexical root of the word for exegesis, tafsir, not just the usage of the word. For example, the word Rahim and Rahmah came in the Quran describing Allah as Rahman, as Rahim. Came also in the Quran describing the Prophet ﷺ as Rahim, Ra'uf Rahim, and also describing the Quran as a book of Rahmah. But the word Rahim and Rahmah have a lexical root of Rahim, Ra, Ha, Mim, which means the mother's womb. You all know, though Allah, nothing is like Him, but the mother's womb does not just give mercy. The mother womb gives love before it gives mercy, nourishes before it just gives mercy, protects, kind, supports, everything, and most importantly, loves. So the name Rahman, the name Rahim for Allah Ta'ala, the name also Rahim for the Prophet ﷺ, and the book, the Quran, is a book of Rahmah. They all come down to boil down to the point of love. So in these beautiful atmospheres of love, kindness, and compassion, that's why it's erroneous to translate Rahman with merciful, because you're depriving the word from its lexical root. In these beautiful atmospheres of love and compassion, Islam enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. Islam makes love our true destiny. Darus Salam. We can never find the meaning of life without love, and we do not find the meaning of life by ourselves alone. We find it only with As-Salam, Allah, and we find it also with one another. Therefore, Islam teaches us that happiness in this world is not a matter of intensity as much as it is of balance, love, and harmony, which is another meaning for salam. For that, and because peace in the Islamic terminology is a very big word, very encompassing term, that may be misconstrued by people, Islam went straight to separate between peace and nonviolence and institutionalized nonviolence on all three levels of human behavior: the level of the thought, the level of the word, and the level of action, on a level of actions, to ensure delivery of the message and close any gaps of ambiguity in the understanding of the term peace. The reason for that is because the word or the term peace means different things to different people. To some, it means the absence of war. To others, it means a habitual inner gentleness or living in a harmonious world. But an American writer, Thomas Merton, wrote in the 60s, and I quote, "To some people, peace merely means the liberty to exploit other people without fear of retaliation or interference. To others, peace means the freedom to rob others without interruption. To still others, it means the leisure to devour the good of the earth without being compelled to interrupt their pleasures, to feed those whom their greed is starving. And to practically everybody," he says, "peace simply means the absence of any physical violence that might cast a shadow over lives devoted to the satisfaction of their animal appetites for comfort and pleasure," end quote. Well, nonviolence, in contrast, has both an inner intellectual and an outer behavioral dimension. The intellectual one is the most important, because violence does not come first on the action level, on the limbs. Violence is first born as an idea, then it goes to the verbal level, then it goes to the action. It starts with the conviction that regardless of whether some forms of violence are morally permissible, as in self-defense, a higher and more perfect morality is to abjure all violence for any purpose, whatever, against anything or anyone, whatever, and by any means, whatever. So first of all, there has to be a moral ideology to which one then struggles to conform one's behavior. That's why Islam made nonviolence a priority of faith and a sign of it under the two main concepts of Islam, in Islam, as-salam and la ikrah fid-din, no coercion. One other potential difference between nonviolence and peace is that nonviolence has to be embraced on a personal level, person by person, and cannot be imposed by decree from above as a collective policy, for example. Therefore, nonviolence is more in the hands of intellectuals, thinkers, religious scholars, and activists, whereas peace is more in the hands of government. And it's the policies of the governments and the educational objectives. Nonviolence can take multiple forms, as Quran shows us. Special form of nonviolence is the absorption of violence. One not only strives not to inflict violence on others, but one is also prepared to suffer the violence of others. We will see that if we have time to talk about Qabil and Habil, as in the Quran. This is different from pacifism that may avoid the infliction of violence, but does not necessarily entail a proactive commitment to nonviolence and the absorption of violence. Violence is one of many expressions of death-making, and Islam is salam, the exact opposite of that. Hence, it's life-giving, life transmission, and life enhancement. The practice of nonviolence, especially the absorption of violence of others, is incredibly difficult. There's an unnaturalness about it because of violent impulses and defenses of our bodily integrity and of our loved ones, ourselves. They're deeply embedded in our human nature. Accordingly, it is unnatural for us to be prepared to be victimized by others, to suffer, and to potentially incur grievous damage or even death, rather than simply employ violence to fend it off. Additionally, there are many people of peaceful disposition, and that's why Islam again makes a distinction between peace and nonviolence. There's many people of peaceful disposition who would gladly see peace in the world and would be prepared to function as peacemakers between contending parties. But for a variety of reasons, the vast majority of these people do not believe in nonviolence, where Islam wants us to go. Some of them believe in the minimization of violence, or in reducing certain kinds of violence, or merely stopping warfare. For instance, almost all the people who received the Nobel Peace Prize have either defended, promoted, or even commanded violence under all sorts of conditions. This speaks to the concept of peace, which is starkly different from the concept of nonviolence in Islam. Violence is as old as humanity, we all know it, and it's recounted in various mythologies. Those who believe, obviously Muslims, in Abrahamic faith systems, all believe in Adam and his wife, and we believe that Cain and Abel, obviously Cain, the older brother of Adam, killed Abel, the younger brother of Adam, out of a motive involving religion or religiosity. Something was accepted from someone and the other one's sacrifice was not accepted. So violence is as old as humanity itself. Some historians say we're all the children of Cain, which is not necessarily true. Let's hope we're not. All right. There's a couple of ayahs I'd like to go through, and then we'll finish with this. One, obviously, in Surah Hud, where Allah Ta'ala says, أنشأكم من الأرض واستعمركم فيها. He, which means, the verse means, he asked you to استعمركم. He asked you to positively contribute to earth. And positively contribute to earth can never be through violence. And then Al-Quran Al-Kareem goes and talks about the story of the creation of Adam. And the creation of Adam, our father, was from clay, versus Satan, what we believe, Shaitan, was from fire. And upon that, in that sort of these verses in the Quran, Satan refuses to salute Adam. And the citation for that refusal is, I am better than him. Ana khayrun min. I am better than him. He tells Allah, I am better than Adam. I was created from fire, and he's created from clay. From this story, I'm going to make a couple of conclusions. Number one, the father of racism, prejudice, ethnic superiority is no one else but Iblis, Shaitan. Because he thought, since he's made intrinsically from fire, fire is far superior than clay. And therefore, people who have prejudice just because of what they're made of, they're really Iblisi in their inclination, nothing else. Number two, that it's an Iblisi sort of tactic, because Allah never asked Iblis, who's better amongst you? He asked him to salute Adam, but instead of saluting Adam, he went and said what? I am better than him. That was never the question. The question was never who's better. The question was salute, did not. Third, sure, Iblis or Shaitan may have thought that fire is more important and more powerful than clay, because it's powerful. But the power of fire, or fire power, is destructive. It burns everything and destroys everything. But what Iblis or Shaitan failed to understand is that Adam is made from clay, and clay is a massive power. Clay is a power of not destruction, but it's a power of building and construction. And there's a huge difference between the power of destruction and the power of construction and building. That's why you are the child of Adam, not the child of Iblis. You're not supposed to carry out Iblis's or Shaitan's mission by carrying out destruction, but you're supposed to carry out your father's mission by being constructive, not destructive. Another thing also we can take from that is that, sure, fire is a power of burning and death, but clay has water and soil, and water is a symbol of life. So Adam tries to give life. Iblis tries to burn life and take it away. The other example that I would like to bring real quick is the story of Adam. Allah Ta'ala tells us about the two children of Adam. One of them said, I will kill you, لَأَقْتُلَنَّكَ, I shall kill you. When one of the two of them gave a sacrifice, accepted from one, not accepted from the other. In response, he says, I'll kill you. The brother told him, Allah accepts, which means Allah accepts from the righteous. It's not my problem that your sacrifice was not accepted. But then this is what he tells him. He says, if you are to extend your hand to kill me, I will not extend my hand in return to kill you. This is a Quranic example of violence and what do we do? So it's a practical workshop. If you extend your hand to kill me, the Quran replies, which means, I will not extend my hand to kill you, for I fear Allah, the Lord of the world. So from this, we can take a couple of things. Number one, the logic or the culture of I will kill you will always exist. That's why the Quran put it there. It's not going to disappear with Cain and Abel. There will always be this logic of power versus the power of logic. Logic of power, might makes right. Power of logic is the line of the Anbiya. Al-Quran also shows us that the practical reply or the practical response to I will kill you is not to kill back, even though it's self-defense. In fact, Islam goes further to say, that threatening someone with violence is impermissible, as the ayah tells you, and as the Prophet ﷺ also tells us in a hadith. In fact, the ayah goes even further to say that the human self is sacred even if it's oppressive, meaning that brother who wanted to kill his brother, it was not permissible for the brother to threaten to kill him, because the self is sacred even when it's oppressive and wrong. Also, the ayah shows us something very important, that the reason for war and violence throughout humanity, from the beginning of it till now, has got nothing to do with religion. It is greed, envy, and ambition. These are the causes of war and violence. But in order to sanitize these self-serving emotions, we cloak them in religious rhetoric. That's what mobilizes the people. Also, from the ayahs, we can take something, that jihad was never meant to mean transgression, udwan. Jihad does not mean transgression upon other people whatsoever. Also, Al-Quran Al-Kareem finishes this whole thing by reminding us with the most important elements of life: Iman billah ta'ala, and say or peace. فَلْيَعْبُدُوا لِإِلَافِ قُرَيْشٍ إِلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. Allah says, فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ الَّذِي أَطْعَمَهُم مِّن جُوعٍ. He fed them from starvation, وَآمَنَهُم مِّن خَوْفٍ, and He gave them peace. Let me finish by saying this: As-Salam subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of peace, wants us to live in peace, love, and compassion. Allah ta'ala wants us to work to end wars, violent conflicts, poverty, nuclear weapons, weapons of mass destructions, and start doing weapons of mass instruction instead, not weapons of mass destruction. Environmental destructions and systematic violence. The Lord of Peace, As-Salam, is never glorified by human violence. On the contrary, He's glorified by non-violence, love, and peace. An authentic spiritual life in Islam requires creative non-violence. We can't claim to worship the Lord of Peace, As-Salam, while we continue to support the false gods of violence and wars. If we wish to attain some spiritual integrity, we must also denounce the horrors of our age, such as all these things that are happening out there, from systemic racism to permanent warfare to greed, environmental destructions, and work actively to end them. We need to envision and pursue a new culture of love, compassion, and nonviolence. I think that As-Salam, Allah Ta'ala, commands us to turn back to Him, the Lord of Peace, to renounce violence, embrace everyone as sister and brother, live at one with creation, enter a communion of peace, enjoy the fullness of life and nonviolence, and let love and compassion reign. I think that's the call. We need to start building a culture or a civilization of love. I think that's the calling. Assalamu alaikum. Shukran.
Thank you, Sheikh Muhammad Yahya Al-Ninawi. Moving forward, I'd like to introduce you to an individual who is on the front lines. Various de-radicalization and rehabilitation programs have been helmed by our next presenter, who is, of course, Dato Ayub Khan Maidin Piche, Senior Assistant Commissioner of the Royal Malaysia Police Force, now the head of Counter-Terrorism Division within the Royal Malaysia Police Force since 2014. He brings with him a wealth of experience in this field and is constantly defending the front lines against terrorism here in Malaysia. Please help me welcome Dato Ayub Khan Maidin Piche.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. His Royal Highness Tuan Yang Maha Mulia Paduka Sri Sultan Nazrin Ghazuddin Shah Ibn Almarhum Sultan Azlan Muhibbuddin Shah Al-Marfullah. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. Ampun tuanku, My briefing today will touch on Malaysian strategies in countering terrorism. In addressing threat posed by extremists, militant and terrorist groups, the Malaysian government, through the Royal Malaysian Police, adopted various comprehensive strategies and approaches that preserve both national security and human rights simultaneously. Human rights advocates have occasionally criticized the Royal Malaysian Police for infringement of these rights in the course of countering terrorism. These accusations have remained as a mere allegation till today. We have been walking a very thin line, juggling to find a balance between preserving security and protecting human rights. Be what it may, for us it has been business as usual. The Royal Malaysian Police has prevented Malaysia from encountering large-scale attacks which are becoming common all over the world. And in doing so, it has safeguarded the rights of the general public for peace and security. As an enforcement agency, we ensure that any breach of anti-terrorism laws we will deal with firmness and professionalism. Daesh in 2012 drastically altered the security landscape of the world and created new challenges for many nations. Daesh caught everybody by surprise. No militant group has been as well as structured as Daesh, including Al-Qaeda. Its capabilities in disseminating ideology, recruitment drive, attack planning, social media exploitation, networking, and procurement of funds is remarkable. No country has been spared for the looming Daesh threat. Enforcement agencies have been on alert over a long period of time, not knowing when and where the next attacks will take place. The defeat and loss of territories experienced recently by Daesh in Iraq and Syria has not altered the international security scenario. Daesh continues to recruit new members and launch attacks through operatives from its stronghold in Middle East, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Europe, and United States. The new wave of attacks conducted in Spain, Pakistan, London, and United States clearly proves Daesh's ability in motivating new operatives inspired by Salafi jihadi ideology via social media to conduct terror attacks. The downfall of Daesh in Iraq and Syria has not completely stopped attack plots in Malaysia. The Royal Malaysian Police continues to detect and disrupt attempts by Malaysian Daesh cell members to launch malicious attacks in Malaysia. Latest is the arrest of 3 members of Daesh cells categorized as Wolfpack, which planned to launch attack on Oktoberfest celebration in Kuala Lumpur last month. We assess more Malaysians will be inspired and driven to carry out attacks in Malaysia in time to come. As mentioned earlier, the Royal Malaysian Police is very much involved in countering terrorism through soft and hard approaches. While many believe hard approach is relatively the better method in addressing terrorism, it is easier said than done. Soft approach and hard approach are very closely associated. As an enforcement agency, we blend both measures and make them work hand in glove with each other. Let me now single out those measures formulated in Malaysian counter-terrorism environment. The first one is on intelligence collection. Intelligence collection is the mother of all counter-terrorism initiatives. Without intelligence, we are doomed. Only intelligence can help us detect and disrupt terrorism-related activities. It was through solid intelligence that Royal Malaysian Police successfully foiled 18 plots by Daesh in Malaysia. But intelligence collection must not stand alone. It must be complemented with the element to share, as Daesh is omnipresent. Again, only with the philosophy of need to share, we can totally defeat Daesh and make the world a safer place. Disruption operations by Royal Malaysian Police against militant elements was rigorously launched after the shocking 911 incident in 2001. Massive arrests were conducted against members of Al-Qaeda, Jemaah Semah, Darul Islam, Abu Sayyaf Group, Liberation Tiger of Tamil Ilam, and others under the Internal Security Act or ISA. Since 2012, Syrian conflict, and after the ISA was repealed, 349 Daesh elements have been apprehended by the way of Security Offences Special Measure Acts, SOSMA, Prevention of Crime Act or POCA, and Prevention of Terrorism Act or POTA. The anti-Daesh campaign have been managed as follows. Prosecuted 162, convicted 101, detained under POCA 47, detained under POTA 27, deported 33, released 79, pending investigation 5. Prevention is another important aspect of countering the threat of terrorism. Since Daesh-related activities surfaced in Malaysia toward the end of 2013, the Royal Malaysian Police successfully launched preemptive actions against 18 plots to conduct domestic attacks in Malaysia. Next is community engagement. Modern-day terrorism exploits religion to achieve its objectives. The Daesh threat is a classic example. To counter such maneuvering, the Royal Malaysian Police involved in community engagement with multiple agency support such as National Security Council and Religious Department. This community engagement approach is vital. People must be given awareness, understanding, and reminders of the danger being promoted by Daesh through its Salafi jihadi ideology. We must expose Daesh-manufactured distortion and legal repercussion against those affiliated to Daesh. These measures will perhaps ensure the public are not misled by the rhetoric and propaganda disseminated by Daesh, which claims to be upholding Islam and struggling to establish a true Islamic nation. These programs are directed at general public and private institutes of higher learning, government departments, media, religious departments, state muftis, forum participants, mosque-based religious classes, and village security and development community, among others. The Royal Malaysian Police is also roped in during community engagement program organized by other government and private agencies such as National Security Council and Religious Department. Since 2014, a total of 800 explanatory programs were conducted by the Counter-Terrorism Division for the benefit of roughly 100,000 participants. Community engagement have proven to be very effective. Since the kickoff in 2014, the Royal Malaysian Police received huge numbers of positive feedbacks from the general public. As a matter of fact, information of unknown suspects intending to travel to Syria or those being motivated by Daesh ideology are channeled by members of the public to the Royal Malaysian Police for preventive action. Cooperation and collaboration. The cooperation and collaboration strategy between enforcement and intelligence agencies must be maintained at domestic, regional, and global levels, as the threat of terrorism is trans-border in nature. Without such support, it is almost impossible to counter the threat of terrorism. The Royal Malaysian Police will be the first to admit the importance of close and strong cooperation and collaboration. Our successes in disrupting the terrorist cells, particularly foreign terrorist groups that had either attempted to use Malaysia as an operational base, recruitment platform, or logistical procurement center, are largely due to the implementation of a solid strategic cooperation and collaboration. Among the notable successes achieved due to cooperation and collaboration between foreign partners are as follows. Arrest of 25 senior Liberation Tiger of Tamil Ilam leaders since 2009 who attempted to establish operational bases in Malaysia. All 25 were handed over to the Sri Lankan authorities for further action. Arrest of 7 senior members of Baba Khalsa International since 2010, wanted by the Indian authorities for series of bombing in Punjab. Arrest of 30 East Turkmenistan Islamic Movement members wanted by Chinese authorities since 2011. Arrest of Al-Shabaab leader holding US citizenship. Subject was handed over to the US authorities. Arrest of Jabhat al-Nusrah, commander in Syria, who was seeking treatment in Malaysia. Subject was handed over to Saudi authorities for necessary action. The last one, arrest of Kosovan Daesh hacker. Subject was reported to face criminal charges in US. The Royal Malaysian Police share intelligence gathered for debriefings of arrested terrorist operatives in Malaysia with foreign partners whose countries were target of terror plot. One such information from Royal Malaysian Police helped deter a terrorist attack on a peacekeeping mission deployed in Central Asia. In other case, intelligence channeled by Royal Malaysian Police foiled terrorist plots against 2 foreign consulates based in South Asia. What is the level of cooperation between the Royal Malaysian Police and other regional and global enforcement agencies? Last Friday, during the 15th anniversary of International Counter-Terrorism Cooperation held in Bali, Indonesia, General Goris Meri, the Indonesian President Advisor, highlighted the Royal Malaysian Police was the closest ally to Indonesia in countering terrorism issue faced since 2002. A picture paints 1,000 words. I have been working with General Tito since years 2000. At that time, both of us were still a junior officer. In countering terrorism threat, which is transborder in nature, the Royal Malaysian Police adopts a firm and proactive stand in denying any plan by terrorist groups, be it local or foreign, to turn Malaysia into the safe haven. As mentioned earlier, the Royal Malaysian Police has undertaken various actions to disrupt and dismantle terrorist networks and arrest its members associated to groups such as LTTE, BKI, Al-Shabaab, Jemaah Ansarut Tawhid, Al-Qaeda, and ITIM. All foreign suspects apprehended are deported to their respective countries of origin to face legal proceeding. The Malaysian government, or to be precise, the Royal Malaysian Police, maintains a strict and steer stand on safe havens. Foreign and domestic terrorist groups will never be allowed to establish safe havens or bases, either to plan and launch attack on a third country. We are aware of certain countries that condone such activities simply because of indifferences with the targeted state. Such a policy is detrimental as there is nothing to prevent the terrorist element from staging an attack on the host nation due to certain pressing issues. The host nation then becomes a victim of intimidation or extortion. If only every nation adopts an uncompromising stand on safe havens, which is favored by mobile terrorist groups, I believe international terrorism will be easily wiped out. Since 1960, Malaysia has had a preventive legislation on terrorism at its disposal, namely the Internal Security Act, or ISA. Though the ISA was immensely criticized, it was considered an effective tool in addressing threat posed by communists, terrorists, and militant and divisionists that emerged between 1960s and 2000. In finding a balancing act and maintaining both human rights and security simultaneously, the government repealed the ISA and introduced fresh legislation to counter terrorism, such as SOSMA, POCA, POTA, and special measures against terrorism in foreign countries, or SMATA. SOSMA allows a terrorist suspect to be detained for a period of 29 days. The suspect must be prosecuted or released before the expiry of 29 days remand. If the evidence against the suspect is unable to secure a conviction, suspect can be rearrested under POCA or POTA, which provides a remand period of 59 days for further inquiries. This remand order is issued by magistrate. The Crime or Terrorism Prevention Board, consisting of a serving High Court judge, prominent practicing lawyers, and retired senior civil servants, will determine the case brought against the suspect. The board has the discretion to issue either a police supervision or detention order, or even unconditionally release the suspect. The special measures against terrorism in foreign countries, or SMATA, is meant to obstruct the travel of terrorist suspect. In the past, rehabilitation program of militants and religious extremists, detainees were thoroughly and effectively organized with assistance from various government agencies such as the Malaysian Islamic Development Department, National Security Council, State Religious Department, and Public and Private Institute of Higher Learning. The rehabilitation process on detainee begins when detention order is issued. The detainee is placed under the supervision of Prison Department, which has its own comprehensive rehabilitation program involving disciplinary development, facility enhancement program, and evaluation by Prison Department, Malaysian Islamic Development Department, and the Royal Malaysian Police. Meanwhile, the Royal Malaysian Police also complement by organizing special rehabilitation program for detainees in more conducive environment beyond the Kamunting camp. These tailored programs are conducted by Royal Malaysian Police with assistance from religious department and invited lecturers from local universities and religious institutions. Also included are counseling sessions with Royal Malaysian Police officers that have counseling background. Rehabilitation program organized jointly by Ministry of Home Affairs and Royal Malaysian Police achieved a success rate of 97%. This rate is based on the fact that only 7 from 239 ISA detainees subjected to the program experienced relapse. As for SOSMA, POTA and POCA detainees, the Royal Malaysian Police has completed 3 rehabilitation programs involving 50 inmates. The programs were tailored accordingly to the ISA format. It is too early to assess the effectiveness of this program. Apart from a special rehabilitation program for militant element, the Royal Malaysian Police is also responsible in organizing special re-education program for the families of detainees and militant members who are still at large. These categories of people were invited for ex-military and dialogue sessions with the Royal Malaysian Police, where all complaints and doubts with regard to legal procedures, ideological aspect, and welfare were discussed and addressed accordingly. The reintegration of former detainees is vital aspect of countering radicalization and violent extremism. The Royal Malaysian Police has to ensure that ex-detainees are able to revert to their past life and return to the mainstream of society. Among steps taken to achieve these goals are as follows: assist in securing their previous jobs with the cooperation for their former employers. For the record, several senior JI leaders who were held under detention orders have become successful businessmen and own several companies. Some are lecturing and many return to their original workplace. We have continued to interact and assist released militant detainees. They have been invited to attend various programs including Breaking Fast and Reunion program organized by Royal Malaysian Police. By combining soft and hard approach measures according to the rule of law, the Royal Malaysian Police have successfully contained the threat of terrorism. Since 2013, Malaysian Special Branch successfully foiled 18 attempts by Daesh elements to conduct domestic attack in Malaysia. Of the 18 plots, 7 were at phase 2, including 3 lone wolf style, where Daesh operative had procured chemicals, ammunition, and other related bomb-making material. The other 11 plots remain at phase 1, where only discussion and delegation of tasks took place. Among the terror plot foiled by the Royal Malaysian Police included attempts to attack Western interests, entertainment outlet, vice den, federal buildings, police station, military camps, apart from staging armed heists, kidnapping of VVIP, and plans to launch attack during the SEA Games and National Day celebrations. Unfortunately, on 28 June last year, Daesh managed to conduct a grenade attack on a pub in Puchong, Selangor. This was the first Daesh attack on Malaysian soil. 2 of the perpetrators were apprehended within hours of the attack, while another 2 cell members fled for a month before being detained. All 4 were prosecuted and convicted. The later success of Royal Malaysian Police was in the apprehending of 3 Daesh suspects, including 19-year-old student who plotted to conduct IED attack in Klang Valley in conjunction with the Oktoberfest celebration. The suspect had manufactured 6 IEDs containing low explosive and ball bearings and successfully tested 3 of them. The remaining 3 IED were reserved for beer festival. This cell is categorized as Wolfpack, operating with 3 members, limited fund, having no link to Daesh members either based in Malaysia or Syria. Since 2016, we have seized several improvised explosive devices fully developed by local IS operatives who had acquired the necessary expertise. The seized IED was then handed over to our bomb disposal unit for reconstruction and detonation. This was the impact of its cost. This is a 200-gram IED seized in Selangor.
Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! Take cover! Fire! Ready, ma?
200 gram only. Next one is a 300-gram pipe bomb, also seized in Selangor.
Okay, angle okay. Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! Take cover! 1, 2, 3! Dampai. Jangan dulu, tunggu dulu. Baik, dampai.
And the third one is 2 kilogram vehicle-borne IED or VBIED recovered in Selangor. Observe the impact of its explosion. Two kilogram. And the last one that we have confiscated, the 3 IED seized in Pasir Putih, Kelantan. This IED contained ball bearing and had a killing range of 20 meters.
Dia letak dia letak dalam tu. Yes. Tak tahu bawah putih lah kalau nak.
Ball bearing.
Itu dah tadi kata apa? Dito semua tak nak bagi kat atas tu. Tak saya nak ajar orang. Nak ada bukti kan. Tapi satu je, tu letup pun semua. Bang bunyi lah. Apa saya boleh tak boleh ni tak dalam. Ni tak dalam. Dalam. Tak dalam, dah habis. Apa kan? Tak dalam, tadi dalam kan? Dah, okey.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Among the national and police leaders targeted by Daesh is the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, the IGP and my own self. Recently, an Indonesian Daesh member issued a statement instigating Malaysian and Indonesian Daesh member to execute me before Hari Raya Puasa. 2 weeks. Next. In the context of Daesh threat, no security agency in the world is able to give a public 100% guarantee that it could deter the Daesh attack, particularly one that is launched by the lone wolf or wolf pack. In countering Daesh attack in Malaysia, after its downfall in Iraq and Syria, the Royal Malaysian Police detected several lone wolf and wolf pack cells. Members of this cell have no link with other Daesh cells and were inspired to launch attack merely by surfing Daesh-related website and acquired the knowledge to produce IED through the internet. The threat posed by Daesh is not only unique and complex, but must be one that is long-standing. In the context, Royal Merchant Police will resort to various approaches, be it soft or hard approach. Our main goal is to ensure Malaysia remain free for the threat of terrorism. As an enforcement agency entrusted with operational tasks, we fear not too much the criticism by the human rights advocates and the absence of evidence required to prefer charges against militant suspects. Unnecessary delay will be exploited fully by Daesh operative to conduct terror attacks. To avoid a terror attack, prevention must be given priority at all times. Let me on record that human rights issues must be protected at all times, but this right must not supersede national security. Nations will adopt their own disruptive methods to counter the threat of terrorism. External power must not be allowed to interfere in these policies, particularly in the name of human rights. We should not be too distracted by calls to uphold human rights issues. We need to find a balance. There were countries claiming to be defenders of human rights have criticized our preventive law, but sadly, they too have detained terror suspects without trial since 2003. By incorporating the soft and hard approach, Royal Merchant Police, or the Counter-Terrorism Division to be precise, is confident in effectively addressing threat posed by terrorism. Thank you. Ampun, Tuan.
On behalf of all Malaysians, I'd like to thank Dato' Ayub Khan and his team for keeping us safe. And that presentation certainly shows us some scary facts and figures. Moving forward, I would like to invite Colonel Ann Wright to now present to you on this topic. And she is an individual who grew up in Arkansas, has a wide range of experiences, both in the military as well as a diplomat. But one of the highlights of her career was when she handed in her resignation to then Secretary of State Colin Powell, feeling that without the authorization of the UN Security Council, the US invasion and occupation of oil-rich Iraq would be a disaster, which repercussions are still presently felt. Please help me welcome Colonel Ann Wright to the stage.
His Royal Highness the Sultan of Perak, His Royal Highness the Regent of Perak, the Right Honorable Chief Minister of Perak, and the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Sultan Azlan Shah University. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a real honor to be here today. Thank you very much for the kind invitation to be here and to be a part of this symposium today. It's a very important symposium, and as we've just seen from the police commissioner's presentation, we live in a dangerous world. We live in a very dangerous world. And then how do we, as the conference's theme is, how do we get to this thing called global peace when we're living in such a dangerous world? Well, I think one of the things that we have to do is to stop wars. I think that will help us get to global peace. Now, how do we do that? Well, I will take some responsibility on this. I think the invasion and occupation of Iraq has destabilized the world in ways that are unimaginable. And they're unimaginable in some very concrete ways, though, as we've seen where the police commissioner's presentation of young men and some young women who are very angry with the world. They're angry with the West, and they're angry specifically at the United States of America for its invasion and occupation of so many countries of the world. And I will, on behalf of many of the citizens of the United States, offer an apology to you and to the world for what my government has done. It's this destabilization of invasion and occupation of other people's countries. And you may have disputes with them, you may have disagreements with them, but I think in the interest of our own civilizations, of the world civilization, We can't use this violence against people to change them to what we think they should be. And the we I use kind of as a universal we, but I'll make it more specific to the United States where I come from. What the United States is doing, I think, is inflaming many of these young men and women that are taking terrorist acts, not just against the United States, but certainly what happened on 9/11 had changed the world, and what we now as citizens of the world live through every single day. All of the precautions that are taken in the name of our safety, and we certainly see that from the previous presentation, there are active groups that want to destabilize not only the United States, but they want to destabilize any government that has any dealings with the United States, or governments that they have specific things that they don't like about what those governments are doing. So how do we get from this world where we are right now into a world of peace? I'll just tell you, I don't have the answers. But I do think that conferences like this are so important, where we will have an opportunity to discuss among people coming from all parts of the world how we can reduce the tensions in our own world, how we can reduce the tensions specifically in our communities. And I'll go back to my country again. I mean, we are in a very difficult time in the United States of America. We have seen our country change in the last year in another very different way. We now see that racism and hatred is at the forefront of the United States, something that I never thought that I would see again. And yet we see it now virtually every day, where people in the United States are emboldened to talk about others in very hateful, rude, and racist ways. That's something that we have to, in the United States, we have to address, and we have got to stop that. And I know it happens in other countries of the world, where we do speak of other ethnic groups, other religions in ways that are hurtful to people. And some people who have anger over these types of things do take violent actions against those that are making these comments toward them. In the United States, we have problems dealing with other cultures. And you all know very well what has happened in the last year, where in our globe, where we now have such a movement of people around the world, the migrations, the immigrants that are trying to move from places in the world where they feel they have no chance, they have no economic opportunities, they may not have educational opportunities, and they're moving to places where they think their lives are going to be better. And we look at what has happened from the Middle East, from Syria, from Iraq, from the wars that were precipitated by the United States, huge movements of people, millions of people that have come across the waters into the Mediterranean and then up into Europe, where over 1 million people have traveled up into Germany and Austria and Sweden, all through Europe, trying to escape violence and trying to find some other life for themselves. We see other types of refugees that are around the world, and as the Sultan mentioned, the horrific situation that's going on right now, where the Rohingya are fleeing massive violence from Myanmar. We see people in Yemen, hundreds of thousands of people in Yemen that have been bombed, that have been killed by the bombs that are coming from Saudi Arabia. In the United States, we have a system now where our refugee our refugee programs have been sliced, that they have been cut, that America used to offer great numbers of people an opportunity to come to our country. And yet now we are seeing that number has dropped from 120,000 a year down to 50,000 and probably going lower. We see that we now have a ban on 7 nationalities. Now, if you talk about destabilizing the world, these are some of the things that are happening right now. So for me in the United States, when I look at global peace, I have to look right in the eyes of my government to say, my government is not doing anything to help global peace right now. We are, in fact, destabilizing, not only in the Middle East, but when we talk about Northeast Asia. Northeast Asia, the nuclear situation there on the Korean Peninsula, where we have threats that are emanating from North Korea and then the United States, and back to North Korea and back to the United States. These are things that we as citizens of the world are very, very concerned about, that we are, I wouldn't say without hope, but I think we're all pretty scared about what's happening right now. So when we have a conference like this, a conference on world peace, when we look to a conference of thought and religion, not thought and civilization, Islamic thought and civilization, and I would say it's world thought and civilization. And we appreciate so much what the Islamic community and the Islamic world is doing by bringing us all together to talk about that. I'm not going to speak very long. I know we've been here a long time, and it's time to get moving on other things. But I just wanted to mention one other part. The Sultan mentioned the two words, trust and inclusivity. And I'll just mention one other word, and that is a word, amal. Amal, it means hope. And that was one of the name of the women's boat to Gaza. Hope, that we all hope that we will work together, for a better world, a better civilization. One of the themes that we have here in the Global Peace is women in peacemaking, and I look forward to talking to one half of this community here, and even more of them, the men too, but the role of women in building peace, not only in our families, but in our local communities, our national communities, and our international communities. So it's with great pleasure and honor that I thank you all so very much for the kind opportunity to be here, and for all of us, global peace. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Colonel Ann Wright, who's not only a participant of the flotilla Challenger to Gaza. It is an all-women flotilla. She's not just a participant on that boat, but she is the captain of that boat, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give her a round of applause. And ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I would like to invite you now to applaud our participants of the distinguished sessions and thank them for their presentations.